So Blue Moon Way, obviously Blue Moon is associated with Manchester City, it's their song, although Crew sing Red Moon. I have heard stories Crew had it first, but that's something you'd have to chase up. So here is what was the centre spot. Yes, this is where Maine Road, this actual stadium, is. So just gonna have a walk on now. I'll put my foot on here. It's actually dedicated to the former groundsman Stan Gibson, who was a groundsman, looked after the pitch over 40 years. I think that's a nice touch. It also preserves this bit of football and history. So all this once was a football ground. Home of Manchester City, the Kippax was a legendary stand where the main City faithful stood in. It's also where Oasis played famous 2 gigs also. So this here is where the Kippax would have been. And it was once, I think it still holds the record for the highest number for an FA Cup side that wasn't at Wembley between Manchester City and Stoke. Maine Road also hosted FA Cup semi-finals, especially the replays, League Cup final, Community Shield or Charity Shield as it's called then, and a couple of England games, but I think England games may have been more youth internationals. The stadium, obviously, eventually moved to the City of Manchester Stadium. Manchester City's last game there was in 2003 and it was against Southampton before they moved to the City of Manchester Stadium, Etihad as it's called now, but I'm sure if you ask most old school Manchester City fans, they miss Maine Road, they miss the feeling that it had. Where the Etihad's brought success with all the money now Manchester City have, this was an old school ground, it had the atmosphere, and although people mock Manchester City's attendances now when they played in what is League One, they were still getting 27,000, 25,000 a week. So they have always had a fan base, maybe not as big as rivals Manchester United or Liverpool, although it's growing now in the modern era, because the Manchester City now is different to what the Manchester City was back then. But this is still good to see a bit of its legacy still being preserved. This one's actually got a gate that's made out of artificial football grass. There is obviously some pattern young fans have drawn, commemorating all the spectators that used to come here watching Manchester City all them years ago. So again, this place is called Streety Citizens Place. It's taken on board, as you can see, Manchester City's nickname. Troutman Close, named after Bert Troutman, German goalkeeper who is actually the prisoner of war. He was in the hands of his call to prison in Ashley Making Field. He later joined St Helens Town, and his performances caught interest. It was Manchester City that signed him, and originally there was protests from the fans at the idea of signing a German prisoner of war, but it won respect over. He was remembered for the 1956 FA Cup final where he suffered a serious injury, I think it was his neck, but carried on playing on and helped guiding Manchester City to the FA Cup win. But it went down in folklore, not just in Manchester City, but just in English football in general, and later managed teams, Stockport County being one of them. Design here, a bit like the Emirates at Arsenal, it's got sort of like a football stand feel to it, these apartments. Yeah.